on the POS and debit for the back engine, and that is it. So you move on. But all these have securities because the chain all the way from the mobile phone to the back end system to the front engine, all the way back into the the merchant and the bank have all securities embedded in each one of them. And so we're still looking at the mobile application. The mobile application is likely to be the most common entry point for attackers among all components of the mobile payment system. We talked about the SMS, we talked about the mobile payment application, and we talked about using the POS to do that. So it is the case of, there was a fraud that actually happened in South Korean financial organization called NHS No Bank Group. They were using this mobile app, which was actually based on Android, and people went to third-party site, downloaded the mobile app, put Trojan on it, and uploaded it back. And a lot of people just downloaded it and ran some applications. Then it collected all their credit card details and all the rest of the stuff. And before that bank can know what is happening, millions of dollars have actually gone out of people's account, and they had to shut down the app. So it's quite something that is really key. Then one new Trojan, mask as tic-tac-toe application. It purposely steals the bank. That is what it does. It does target that. It steals it without you actually knowing it. Then one of the biggest number in cyber attack is the Trojan SMS, malware family, a malicious program which allows attackers to attack the bank data. I'm going to flip through this now. So what are we looking at in this case? Some of the mitigations that we need to look at. We talked about secure design. Many vulnerabilities are design issues. If people come in, for instance, I was doing a project for a government organization, and they have put in their web services on their internal network. Now there is no layer security. Normally they are supposed to put it on the DMZ such that the DMZ will be able to talk to the back-end system, and they have a firewall in between them. But in this case, they put in their web services on the internal network and also the back-end system. So this attack actually came in, entered through the web server through SQL injection attack, and downloaded all the user table with including all the information that they got. And that was it. So I was actually called in to investigate that. And then, I looked at it and I was really amazed that that could actually have happened. So one of the recommendations is to put the web services on the perimeter and separate it with the firewall and put the database at the back end, and also encrypt some of those information. So those are the issues with design. It could be a design issue, and if it's wrongly designed, then somebody can actually get into trouble with that. Then you also have secure coding. The earlier speaker spoke about secure coding. When people write codes, for instance, in SQL injection attack, which she talked about and also talked about it last year, they write code without actually proper filtering and proper validation. So somebody writes a code and say, if my name is equal to this, enter this. What if my name is not A? What happens? So people can enter code that have meaning in SQL and just put it in there, and it will just take you straight in and bypass that process and bounce you straight onto the backend system. And you could download the table. If you have all the credit card information or the details there, you just get that quickly. So let's move on. Then code reviews is one of the stuff that we need to be looking at. Ensuring that software development process include regular reviews of the code. Somebody talked about update. You must update your system, because the whole essence of actually having the update is because somebody has discovered a vulnerability somewhere and he wants you to use that update to patch it. Now I found out that most of the systems, you walk into an organization, maybe they are still running the business which is no longer supported, and all the codes, the vulnerability that is there is still lying there, and somebody will just come in and just destroy that. What about your web services? I've discovered a lot of web services being defaced in Nigeria. There's loads and loads of stuff. And these are simple stuff that can actually be protected. I'm not saying it cannot happen, but we make it a lot harder for somebody to do that. And by the time you look at it, you say, oh no, I'm not going to spend all my time trying to deface this website, because there's a layered security behind. So secure application deployment. In the deployment phase, ensuring that the customers are directed to and install the correct application, e.g. from company's app store. So I talked about the issue about Android, where they allow their app to be managed by a third party. So people download that, the legitimate app, infect it with a Trojan, upload it back to the third party app store, and people download that thinking that it's right. And at the end of the day, there's a backend running and it's sending information back to the control center, and all your credit card information is just made about it. So what people need to do, one of the mitigations is to make sure that you download, because all of us use you download from the proper apps, either Google Store or Apple Store or whatever. I'm not saying it cannot be compromised, but they put some layered security in place that can make it a lot more harder to infect. So that's what you have there. You have that bad guy there. The mobile app that it has there is actually on the the third party whatever. It downloads that the legitimate app. Infects it with Trojan, you see, and uploads it back again. Anybody that takes that app on, that's the end. It will continue to run at the background, and any data you actually get to, it will infect millions of people. If millions of people get into that and download that app, it will infect millions of people. And if the amount, imagine the amount of information is actually going to get from that. So let's move on. We talked about code reviews, regular reviews of code and updates. We talked about that. Oh, am I going down or am I going forward? Okay. So penetration testing is one of the ways to actually test the vulnerability of your system. We call it IT health check. In most occasions, you need to go through IT health check, just to make sure that your system is actually up to date. And then it will flag up the risk that you have, probably like high, low, and low level risk, and you can actually follow the remediation process to actually do that. So let's look at the user as one of the mobile risk ecosystem. The user actually, if it doesn't actually know much about when your system is at low, what his expectations are, all right? If I produce an app today to say, oh, I need you to be paying GT Bank through this app, the user doesn't actually know what you would expect using that app for the very first time. So if anything goes wrong, he may not actually tell whether that is being hijacked, whether it's whatever. He will only say, oh, I think this is not really working well. But in the actual sense of it, maybe something is actually happening in the background and doesn't know. So whoever that is developing that, an application developer or the company, needs to proper user awareness to make them understand how the application will actually work. So if you bring up a mobile payment system, application, you need to let your customers know, either through email or whatever it is, of how that application works, so that if things are not right, then they should be able to get back to you. And also putting sort of like 365, 24/7, 365, incident management response team that will be able to, users will be able to call back and say, oh, this is what is happening to me. If you lose, if something happens to you, like in the UK, something happens to me, and I lose my card, the next minute I just call and the whole thing is actually blocked anyway, before somebody uses it to just commit a crime. So users must know, and they will have that platform where they can actually report that. And it goes to some of the people that provide these services. So I'm not going to deal with, so it's just talking about awareness there. Then I'll come back to this back end. Now, in the banking industry, which is the financial industry, and also maybe telecom and all the rest, there's a lot of data that is actually kept at the back end. Now, what the payment system does is that, you make the payment, and use the front end to make the payment, and it goes through whatever the service provider is, then it goes out to the back end, say for instance, in the banking industry. Now, within there, there's a lot of servers. There are actually servers that sit at the back end. So, talking to that back end, you need to protect that back end system. Now, how do we protect it? We make sure that the operating system is actually hardened. We make sure that, as Cesar talked about, data classification. Now, one of the projects I'm working on, we have the data classified already. So you have the high security zone, you have the public domain, you have the highly sensitive zone. So most of the services that run like the credit card system and all that, which is compliant with PCI DSS, are kept in a particular zone. And everything behind it is actually encrypted, using HSM and all that. So this back end is actually, if a user or somebody's system is actually compromised, the next point is going to is there. for instance, you're running an SQL system there, that's the end. It will not compromise only the data of the guy that's using the mobile phone. It's going to compromise the data of every single person that you have stored on that backend system, which is quite very dangerous. And that is why you see that a lot of things are happening on the internet now, where people just download. You see people's credit card, sold online all the time in the dark web. It's happening all the time. So a lot of attention needs to go back to that backend system. So let's move on. I hope I'm not taking all the time. So how can we prevent some of these things? There are login attempts. If you enter your password, probably a couple of times and it doesn't happen, there must be a way to lock the system. Say, no, I don't want you to try anymore, because it could be a hacker actually trying. He may use a software that generates, random password and trying so many times, maybe about 15 passwords per second. So, but when that happens, the back engine should be able to understand that and say, no, I don't want that to happen, and to block it. And all those are intelligent systems that are building. Then the back end system should also remember that, look at make sure that dormant accounts are disabled. I remember the issue about the Nigerian Communication Commission that talked about, somebody's card, SIM card was not actually, was not disabled. And I think probably the kidnappers used it or something like that, and MTN is actually suffering for that. So those are some of the stuff. There must be a way to check dormant users and disable them. And in most cases, it's like in the financial sector, when we disable them, after 6 months, somebody shows up, and we start investigation from there and say, okay, what has been happening to you? Then another thing again is the use of one-time passwords. So if you're using a one-time password, you must have a time limit, so that if somebody actually compromises that password, it would have expired over a period of time. So I'm going to run through. Then the fraud engine. This is where I was talking about the fraud engine. Implementing the effective fraud engine is paramount to ensuring the security of the whole payment service. So we have velocity checks there. That is why checking the baseline. A baseline of what minimum requirement before a service goes live. If you're a web application designer here, you must have that baseline, that velocity check. You must think about what attackers can actually do and build that into your system, so that you have minimum loss. Because the problem with most of these systems is that when it's deployed online, you look at the way users are going to use it is not the way the designers have thought about it. And that brings about all this security. So you, as a developer or whatever it is, needs to be sure that you do this minimum check to understand. Then recipient monitoring. Monitor and possibly set limits over the amount, that an entity can transact over a period of time. I have my bank, I have about £10,000 as my limit for the day. If it goes that, my phone rings straight away. And it asks me to enter my code if I'm the one actually authorizing that payment beyond that point. And if it is not me, I pay it, and the transaction will never go through. So all that is recipient monitoring. And also, you also find out that the fraud engine is able to look at if your account gets compromised, what the attackers will actually do, which will simulate quite a lot in the lab. They'll be transferring, there will be a lot of transaction actually going out to either the same recipient or multiple recipients. So what we normally do is that when the account is actually set up, there's always a baseline that, through heuristics, that fraud engine is actually looking at. So if you see something that is not right, then it flags up something, and it can go to the financial crime team almost immediately in real time and online, and they could just look at it and, if they're going to take any action, it will take any action. In most cases, we build the prevent action straight onto the, back engine. Transaction monitoring, I just talked about it. Then behavioral analysis. So you baseline your customers. Let me tell you something again. If I'm here, okay, yesterday I was going to transfer money from here to the UK, and I couldn't do that. But I know what I just wanted to try. Transfer money from my account to somebody's account so they could give that now to someone here. But I couldn't do that because what is happening is that within what we implement is that we call what we call geographical location. So over the years, the system has always been designed to operate either within the US or within the UK, and it has never actually been designed working from Nigeria. So that fraud engine actually kicked in And that was what was happening there. So he said, no, you're not supposed to be here, and just threw me out. He wouldn't let me go. So I had to abandon it because I don't want them to block the account before I get to the UK. So all these are things that can actually be built at the back end, which is the fraud engine, and it detects all this. And if you follow up that chain, you discover that even if your mobile phone is actually compromised, all this will kick in and stop some of these attacks. Then real-time availability of data, the data must be, ensuring that fraud engine sees the data in real time. If somebody is transferring loads of money in your account, you should see that in real time and say, no, you can't do that, and stop it. Then logging. You need to log each of this information, because logging is what we are going to use for investigation if anything actually happens. And you must capture like your IP address, where it's coming, the transaction is coming from, the recipient of that, and all the rest of the stuff. So let me just move on. So processes are coming to an end now. So this is processes and assessment. The following recommendation relate to the process to carry out for mobile payment system. They are effective in the protection and prevention of attacks. Carry out risk reviews, the earlier speakers have talked about it. Then security incident management. It will always happen, like the young man was talking about this afternoon, that account was going to be hacked. Let me tell you, there is no security. There is nothing that is secure. People think it's secure, but it's until the vulnerability is found. That is when you know that truly is not secure. And over time, you discover that the way users will use this thing will bring out about vulnerability. They will find something in it. If you look at the case of Apple versus, FBI, how did the FBI actually eventually crack the iPhone? But everybody thought it was secure. Now, WhatsApp has come in to say, oh, I'm going to encrypt the data end to end. But I can tell you that you encrypt it end to end. There must be a backdoor. There is no system that is 100% here. You cannot, even if you encrypt that, there must be a backdoor somewhere. So the case of FBI versus Apple have proved that there is nothing, because I think Apple is not fully, they are one of the, I've worked with a couple of them, one of the best technology you can actually think about in terms of, security. But if FBI can find a way to just crack them, then that's a source of worry for all of us. So, one of the other things again we will look at is a scan application stores. I think it's running out now, guys. So, if you want to download an app for anything, make sure that you, at least at a minimum requirement, you go to the official store of that company, Apple, Google, or whatever. Don't ever download, because people have been infected with this program. Then ensure you clear, if it happens, even if it happens, what's the next thing? You need to be able to protect yourself, because there's the reputational damage to you and to your organization. And you can really literally go out of business. Like in the Western world, if you hear that it's compromised, I used TalkTalk, which was compromised a couple of months ago. And I had to leave, because though none of my personal data was compromised, but it caused for worry, and they lost probably about 20% of their customers because of that single thing. So when that, it must happen, but when it happens, there must be a clear PR strategy in place to actually tell people, oh, you need to cool down, we're working on it and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to run. Okay, this is the last slide there. So the recommendation is actually to protect, detect, and prevent. So this is the recommendation. So you protect from attacks. Several measures can be applied in order to increase the difficulty of attacking the mobile system. It is not secured. Don't let anybody deceive himself. The only thing you can do is making it a lot more difficult for that person to do that, and that is why we talk about layered security. I have implemented loads and loads of them. In the UK, what we do is that layered security. Make it harder. You come into the web service, you can break the web service, but you can't get into the backend system because we put the layered security there. Even when you get into the backend system, you won't be able to seize the credit card because it's sitting on another zone entirely. So that's the way it is. Then there must be a system to detect fraud. No matter how secure the payment architecture is, all this chain that you see, from the telecom company, from the user, from the infrastructure that is in the bank and all that, they have their own security. So how are you going to protect each of these? So it will happen. So no matter the secure implement architecture, there will still be a fraud attempt. Measures have to be applied for fraud detection. So when there's a fraud, like I was saying, somebody is transferring so much money from your account, the fourth engine should kick in and say, no, you're not going to do that. And you stop that and flag up to maybe financial crime management, and they will investigate that. And if truly there is a fraud, then that kicks off immediately, and it reduces the risk to the organization. Then the final one there is prevent. So fraud detection shall be accompanied by valid fraud prevention measures. So that is what I've just talked about, and so you must prevent that from happening. But like I said, there is no total security, so it's just for the users to be careful and to be wary and ask questions. So protect, detect, and prevent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we give our speakers another round of applause? Now we're going to be taking questions. Taking questions.